Now, I would like to request Shri Pritul Kumar, Festival Director, IFFI, and Managing Director, National Film and Development Corporation, to please come on stage and felicitate our dignitaries.
हमारी प्यारी सी चेंबूर की लड़की, grew up in Bombay, was so connected to the arts, very much in your school and in that time. And the first role you pick up, which everybody remembers, is a girl with my kind of glasses and hearing aid in her ear. हम पांच, क्या बात है, क्या मेमोरी है हमारे दोस्तों की. Let's start from actually playing a role which physically, almost looked like, had a hearing aid in her ear. और अगर हम आसपास की दुनिया देखें, हम अभी भी विद्या बहुत सहिष्णु और compassionate नहीं हुए हैं उन लोगों के प्रति who have special needs. So let's start the journey from there.
Actually, journey तो उससे पहले शुरू हुई, and that's how I know Vani, because before हम पांच we were doing a show together. मैंने 4 episodes किए और फिर मैं निकल गई because shooting बहुत दूर थी. I couldn't handle it with college. I was studying at Xavier's, and yeah, when हम पांच happened, I think when you talk about, I definitely think there is more awareness today. I think COVID has proved that there is a lot of compassion in us, but we're all going through our own struggles in life. So a lot of times I think we end up not having that much to give to another. So I don't want to judge anyone who doesn't have the compassion, but I definitely think we're a more empathetic world today than we were a few years ago, a few decades ago. We've definitely come some distance. We'll always feel like it's not enough, but I think I always like to see the glass half full.
I think that's a very big quality to have, because we constantly look at the world around us with that glass ceiling that we are going to talk about today.
Right.
लेकिन वो half glass full करने की जो पूरी प्रक्रिया है, that's also very long, Vidya, and you're one of the first women who's actually broken it. Globally, when I go and talk about women in cinema, I always start with you. And I start with you. No, I do. I do because एक बहुत बड़ा प्रोपेगेंडा इंडस्ट्री में सालों रहा, कुछ उसके रेमिनेंट्स अभी भी होंगे, and that's a global trend. If the protagonist of a film is a woman, first the thing was it will not get produced, it won't get financed, it will never get made. If it gets made, it will not find its release. But you broke into the scene, heroine ki entry. You broke that glass ceiling, you did dirty picture, and everything shattered around us. Let's look at those little pieces of glass which have broken that patriarchy which existed in those narratives.
Firstly, thank you, but I have to say that I think the biggest credit for this, Vani, must go to Ekta Kapoor. Because, it is the business of cinema and every buck matters. So, people are very conservative when it comes to investing money in a film, which is why historically, since we've had male hero-led films, it's easier to invest your faith and therefore your money in them. But she had the guts and the gumption to say, this is a story I want to tell. She's an unconventional, I don't know if you could have even called her a hero, but she believed she was a hero, and she decided to put money, to put money on this film. And of course, then I think I was at the right place at the right time. I don't think I've ever believed that being a woman is a limitation. So yeah, I was doing certain kinds of films, but I would always, it was not like it was not like a burning desire, I want to prove to the world that even women can lead films, nothing of the sort. But there was that desire in my, I think that fire in my belly, ki kitna maza aata agar, I could be the hero of a film. And I think Kainat ne sun li. And things started falling into place. I literally was at the right place at the right time. But I have to say that, Vani, I don't believe that while, I am credited for being the face of this change, and I'm very grateful for it, it is the work of everyone before me. Every female actor who even did the so-called inconsequential roles that has brought us to this place. It's their frustration, it's their angst, it's their desire for more. All of which propelled us further to reach a stage where we're now telling women's stories. Also, the world around us changed. Right? So women are now taking center stage in their lives. Therefore, we are okay to see a reflection of that on screen. We are not just wanting to see them as sacrificial mothers or, the all-bearing, the wife who puts up with anything for her husband, or her, or a daughter who's extremely pious, who allows herself to be judged. We are not being defined by our relationships with the men in our lives anymore. We are our own people. Because we are our own people, that's what we're seeing in cinema. That's why we are willing to go and buy a ticket and watch those films on screen also.
But you're being very simplistic about it, my dear friend. It was a complex biopic. Let's also look at who you were portraying.
Right.
You were portraying literally a scorned woman who was constantly judged for who she was. We really need to know more about that journey. What was it to play this sudden star who stood for a certain kind of portrayal, for the kind of work she did, and the extremely complex and so much of judgment attached to, who she was. Tell us more about playing that role.
I think I was very excited at the prospect of getting to play Silk. But I have to tell you that the first time Milan Luthria came to me, मुझे लगा कि गलत दरवाजे पे तो नहीं आ गए, because I couldn't believe that someone would actually offer me this role. But there was this burning desire to do things that people couldn't imagine I could do, but I knew I could do. So I was thrilled to bits when the film came to me. I said yes instinctively. It was only later when it started making news that there were some people who told me, are you sure, it's going to ruin your career. It may actually, it may spell the end of your career because, you've been Miss Goody Two Shoes. And I said, been Miss Goody Two Shoes ka kya matlab hai? I've hardly done 5-6 films. It's not like 30 years in films and then I'm trying something different. This is why I'm an actor, this is why, to play different women. And I think I just enjoyed the process of letting go, of breaking the shackles, of getting out of my comfort zone. It required a lot of work. It didn't happen as easily as I thought. But Milan Luthria and Poni Verma, the choreographer, really, really pushed me to just break free, and that happened. It was so liberating, Vani, and it was very rewarding. But just as a woman also, of course as an actor, but as a woman, I think the kind of acceptance that I felt towards my body after that, it was a film that changed my life. It really did, and I'm so
talking about portrayals, Vidya, it was, yes, the body that you portrayed, which got discussed and discussed and discussed. But also remember, you were weaving a tale within a tale.
Yeah.
You were telling the tale of somebody who was an actor, and yet you were an actor who was challenging herself to, to be able to, weave in that tale.
Right.
That kind of complexity also must have affected you in ways that you probably never envisaged. Let's also figure out today, in hindsight, when you look back on playing Silk, what was that tale within a tale doing to you while you were at it?
I think what it did to me is that it made me realize that we are no one to judge another, to each his own. And I have to say that maybe before the Dirty Picture, even I've looked at women who dressed a certain way, in a certain light. But this film helped me evolve. It opened my eyes to the fact that this is just the superficial, the exterior, it's a facade, you know, and one, the body is not the person, and secondly, what anyone does with their body is their choice. I think it opened my mind up in various ways, and that, I think, changed me. It has impacted me a lot as an actor also, because, you know, as a woman, your body is constantly changing, and that helped me realize that whatever it is, it's my body, it's keeping me alive, and it's beautiful, therefore. I began to celebrate my body because of the dirty picture. It was tough, I remember. There are various things, right? One was just, for me, the biggest thing, I think, was just having to wear the kind of clothes that I've never worn in my life. I was someone who didn't wear sleeveless. You know, I was a plump girl growing up, so I was always very conscious, and here I was bearing it all. But also, for example, the smoking. That took such a toll, you know, and again, I think we all have certain, you know, stereotypes embedded deep in our consciousness. And you just realize that it doesn't matter. We all have habits that affect us. As long as it's not affecting the world, I think firstly it's okay. There's a lot more that people need to do to change about themselves, about their behavior that can affect the world if someone wants to smoke. I don't endorse it at all, but I'm just saying. But you know, we tend to, especially women smoking, we judge them so harshly, even today. You know, I know. So I think it made me more accepting of myself and of just all kinds of people around me. Most importantly, all kinds of women.
The same timeline, imagine you have done two diametrically opposite roles. You did Parinita, which was set in the mountains, that, you know, the innocence, that, you know, beauty, and that, you know, candor in the film, and something which is so harsh in its reality as a dirty picture. Tell us something about also what was the journey of Parinita, and the whole country was swaying to the melody of, you know, Parinita and the songs in it. That also, you know, remained in the memory, and it was such a rude shock when they actually saw you, you know, as Silk.
I know, I think that was the image that people had of me, because Parinita was such a strong image. It almost made me seem like an ideal woman or a perfect woman, is what a lot of people would tell me, not my words. But then I think, which is why I remember when a lot of people saw the trailer, they said, what have you done? You know, there were people who said, after they watched the film, they said, we didn't want to watch the film because of the trailer. But when we went and watched the film, we felt like, oh my God, there's a person, there's a human being beneath that exterior. You know, I think that was the purpose of it. Like someone asked me, I remember in those days, we're talking about 11 years ago, when the film released, they said, you know, you're like using sex to promote the film. Because there were visuals there were provocative visuals in the trailer, and I was like,
It was very much a part of Silk's life.
Yeah, but I said, if that brings you to the theatre and makes you see beyond the sex, I will use the sex to tell the story. I don't find anything wrong with that.
Fantastic. You're known to do very, very crazy things. You go and play the mother of, you know, a character who's got this, you know, syndrome. And Amit ji is playing that role. Playing mother itself is one of those stereotypes which the Indian film industry has been bogged with. You know, the Ma syndrome, as we call it. Tell us a little more about that journey, and that film was so unique and so touching in so many parts.
That again, you know, Balki, I remember when Balki came to me, I was like, what sort of a story is this? I didn't believe it because he only gave me a nutshell. But when I heard the narration and then later when I reread the script, I was completely blown. Again, there was this hunger in me that I just wanted to do this role. But there was, I will admit, that there was some trepidation because you're like exactly this, right? People tell you shouldn't be playing mother even to little kids in films because then you'll be playing mother for the rest of your life and blah, blah, blah. And then you're going to be playing mother to a 67-year-old actor, not just a 67-year-old actor. We're talking about the Amitabh Bachchan. And, I was like, but it's okay. What am I acting for if I don't take up these roles? I want to be living, at least trying to live, different women's lives through the characters I play. And this is giving me such a great opportunity and a story beautifully told, even on paper. It read beautifully. And I knew that Balki, would tell the story really well, and he did. So, but I think there was a little bit of, I hope, and with no disrespect, I was like, I hope I don't become the next Nirupa Roy. Because people do scare you and tell you that iske baad to wahi hoga. But I have to tell you that process was so magical. It made me just realize what I'm here to do. And lots of people ask me, don't you want to write, don't you want to direct? And I'm like, no, there are people who do that and do that very well. I want to be in front of the camera. I love it. The camera is my deepest love.
To go on redefining things which are so structurally defined in a world around us is your prowess. Huh? You are Maharathi at it. Because you go ahead and do a film where you play, it's a bomb of a film because the biggest shock of our lives gets revealed only in the end. You play a full pregnant woman. It's an absolute edge of the seat thriller. And Kahani became a Kahani to many, many, many women in this country.
Right.
What was that Kahani all about?
Oh, just amazing. Even today, so many people tell me, oh, Kahani is one of my favorite films, and it feels so good. They narrate instances from the movie. I think it was just Shujoy's brilliance.
You have the knack of always giving the credit to the other, right?
No.
Very difficult to take the credit yourself. Big round of applause for finding an actor who has no sense of megalomania in her. Which includes our tribe. We somewhere or the other become megalomaniacs eventually.
I don't completely believe that, but it's not about giving credit. I really feel that these people gave me the opportunity to bring out the best in me at that time, which is why here we are talking about it, because if they hadn't written those stories, hadn't brought them to me, we hadn't collaborated, I don't think it would have happened. It's not about any, I'm not trying to be humble or anything like that. I love credit. I make sure it's quite large on the big screen. But I think it was just, I remember Vani, Shujoy is one of those people who observes little things. He's like a I don't know what the word is, but the way he observes things is really, it's almost scary. Like if a car passed by and he's talking to you here, he knows the number of the car that's just passed by. It's almost like he's a spy.
That's a conspiracy theorist at work.
And I would constantly tell him, I want to see this brilliance in a script. And then he brought Kahani to me, which when it was a one line, itself sounded unbelievably good. But then Kahani is very special because I got to be part of the writing process. I didn't contribute in any way, but he would write every scene that he wrote, he'd bring to me. He'd bring to me and say, listen, respond to this. So I felt so part of the process. By the time I reached shoot, I think we were shooting like this because I knew exactly what I had to do. He knew exactly what he had to do. It was one of the best collaborative experiences in my career.
And you kept playing sleuths, jasoos, police, detectives, things which are seen as very male-centric, in the centerpiece of cinema in our country.
Right.
So that itself is the biggest crack in that glass ceiling, Vidya. But you know, you've constantly reinvented yourself with each role you've done. One of the things which is often asked, I mean, since I used to do so much theatre and I work with young actors all the time, how do you not be yourself and do a role? Is something all actors are faced with. And you have constantly changed the narrative, you completely transformed physically, you're an amazingly good looking person.
Thank you.
But you constantly transform yourself. One of the things that I mostly see in you is, and do not judge me for this, you're not scared of being unbeautiful.
Right.
Right? I'm not using the word ugly. That's a very big task for an actor. We are being suddenly gender neutral. We were all actresses and we were heroines and now we are actors. What is it to transform yourself to be in a character and be unbeautiful on screen?
You know, firstly, I believe that beauty is as beauty does. So if it serves the purpose of bringing alive a character, I will try and transform myself with all the tools I have, you know, makeup, hair, costume, mannerism, voice. And I'm not a trained actor, so it's always a lot of work. But I think I get very bored as a person, very easily. So to constantly keep myself engaged, I have to do new things. Which is why I think I wouldn't be able to do theatre. I would probably be a very poor theatre actor because how do you find the truth day
I
after day?
disagree completely there.
Which is, I really don't have the guts to, look for the truth in what you're doing day after day in the same material. I think I get bored very easily. So which is why I'm constantly looking for new stories, for new for characters that don't seem familiar, or sometimes they seem familiar but I haven't quite explored that aspect. So I think it's out of sheer boredom that I'm looking for new things to do. And yeah, it's I think on screen I'm never playing myself. At least the attempt is, I never try to not be me, because it is me who's playing a character.
Somebody famously asked Nawazuddin Siddiqui 2 days ago. I was talking about this beautiful film Sudhir did, Serious Men and Sacred Games, and Manto. And one of the persons actually asked him, why is it that most actors in the mainstream business of cinema are always themselves, and here you are saying exactly the opposite, I want to be not me and someone else.
Yeah, but I think the attempt is that, having said that, I think I accept that I'm an actor who's playing different roles, right? So I cannot run away from me completely. But I can try and work towards understanding that other person enough to be able to at least walk in their shoes for the number of days that I need to shoot the film. But I think it's not impossible to do away with being yourself. I don't believe that that's humanly possible, and I think that sounds almost unbelievable, maybe preposterous, or maybe a little pseudo also to me, to anyone who says that's what we try to do. And pardon me if any great actor has made any comment on that I'm, but I really think that that's not possible. But using the tools that I have at my disposal, I'm trying to at least walk in their shoes for a few days, which means trying to live their life for a few days.
Talking about being other people, there's another amazing biopic which I call The Mathematics of Life, Shakuntala Devi. She was a very well-known mathematician, but in the film, in the journey of the film, we actually saw you within also the childhood that she had and what kind of a journey she had. Nobody knew about the complicated, complex journey that she had. How was it like to play somebody who's an iconic figure and globally is seen, again, mathematics not being attached to women.
Right.
It's a very male-centric domain, and she just burst into it and, broke so many things around it.
Yeah, but she was called the human computer, and this is obviously not made up, it is real. She's a real person. So women, I think, I don't know where this conception comes from of women not being good at maths, because actually women handle households, and there you require math more than anywhere else. So also our finance minister, what more proof do you need? So I think, but what I loved about this story is that it was not a conventional biopic. We keep she was spoken about as a human computer, but people forgot that there was a human in there. They began to, a lot of people said, but we would have liked to see more of the mathematical genius. But I said, for that you can watch a documentary on her.
Right.
Here we were exploring who she was as a person. And we had access to her daughter's version of her life, which is the closest one can get to. So I think I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the fact that beneath this brilliance, she was almost, I think it's almost, you feel like it's humanly impossible, right? And she made that possible. There was no one like her. She was a wizard. And here you are humanizing her. I loved that process.
Humanizing her is a very interesting thread into what I want to ask you next. You've always played detectives who are not turning. They are very ordinary, regular looking people, regular looking women. And I think somebody inspired by Teen and all the other roles that you played, wrote a very big article I remember reading where they said she's finally normalized being a detective.
Oh, really?
Right?
Wow.
The I Spy syndrome.
Right.
What is it which goes into the transformative reality of playing somebody who's going to be a sleuth or a detective or those kind of things which are again, which are not a James Bond and not a Pink Panther either?
Yeah, because there is no, you don't have a James Bond and you don't have a Sherlock Holmes. There are very few female detective stories that we've seen on the screen. I remember on television there was, oh God, I can't believe I'm forgetting, Miss Marple.
Yes, Miss Marple.
Yeah. So Miss Marple was probably the only one, and there was Kitty to Karamchand. But largely it was the men who played detectives because only men were really doing that job. But actually, if you see all around us, women know what exactly is happening in the neighbor's house down the street. We're better detectives than we give ourselves credit for. So I think we're better qualified to do this job. We are naturally, our instincts are quite attuned to the job. I think it was just, so you didn't have any dhancha you didn't need your detective to be, suave or stylish or macho or, whatever, or ultra sexy in this case, or whatever. It was just people who were quietly doing their jobs. For example, in Bobby Jasus, it was just this local girl who found that she was good at doing the arithmetic in the cases, and she started doing this and making a living. And Niyat, which unfortunately didn't do well, but again,
It was such an amazing film. I
Thank
totally
you.
loved it, and you were this, grumpy, CBI officer
Yeah.
who, basically scorns at everything.
Yeah.
And again, looking at that, Niyat, and also Jalsa.
Yeah.
I mean, Jalsa was another film I think was another crack in another ceiling because we had never seen, a woman play the kind of role, you played in Jalsa. Vidya, you are constantly breaking so many molds. Yeah, and molds which have been so structured, so entrenched, societally, sociologically. There is almost a politics to it. That's how I look at it.
that's a scary word for me.
And you do know that the empirical idea of, actors being followed by a large mass, there are so many women and men who follow you, in the country. They always want to know what Vidya Balan is doing next. So what exactly is Vidya Balan doing next?
I don't know, as a matter of fact. I've only been reading material and, listening to narrations. But I haven't decided what I'm going to do next. There are a few ideas that I've liked that are under development. But I'm enjoying this time. I'm reading again and I'm listening to music again after almost a decade, I think. So, and it's giving me so much perspective on just what I do also, because sometimes when you're constantly working, you don't have that perspective. You need that little distance. And I know that I'm dying to do a comedy, honestly, because I love doing comedy, and people don't seem to like comedy.
We all remember Hum Panch, right? We do.
And there aren't, everyone who comes to me brings me invariably an intense or, a thriller story, but I'm like, bring me something that I can laugh to and that I can make people, that will make people laugh. So I'm hoping, I'm waiting for that comedy, but yeah, I think exciting times ahead, honestly. I don't want to speak too early, but...
What am I going to ask next? You're not going to kill me for it, because I received some very special requests for you this morning while I was boarding the flight from Delhi. You sing beautifully and very few people know about it. So give it up, friends, for one round of applause for having Vidya sing to us today. She's trained. She's trained in
I'll tell you the story.
dance.
I trained in classical music, but if I didn't give up, my guru would have. So,
Vidya, there are so many gurus in the audience waiting, to own or disown you. Let them decide. No, this is a very special request.
I lip sync beautifully. You can play a song and I'll lip sync to it. Oh my God, I don't even know.
Let's sing a song together.
I really am not a good singer, but I'll sing. What the heck? What should I sing? Huh? Hey, no, Ami ji, tumhara not very complicated. Piyu bole is easy. क्या कह रहे? अब बजा दो, मैं गाती हूँ साथ साथ. पियू बोले, पिया बोले, क्या ये बोले जानू ना, जिया डोले, हौले हौले, क्यों ये डोले जानू ना.
Beautiful. Thank you, Vidya.
And you are very kind. Thank you. देखो उन्होंने भी ताली नहीं बजाई.
अच्छा, कैसे नहीं बजाई? ये देखो.
ये होता है भूखा actor. No, thank you.
This wasn't playing to the gallery though. Vidya, before I open to the house, I've always wanted to ask you something. Very recently, I saw an Insta reel in which you said something very important, and it goes a long way as far as we women is concerned. You said, जब हम किसी से मिलते हैं तो हम सबसे पहले पूछते हैं, अरे कितना weight lose कर लिया तुमने? Do we even realize how hurtful we can be to people and the sensitivities which, are attached to? And these are real portrayals. I'm not talking about on-screen cinematic portrayals. We go through this each day. What would you say to all the women who are sitting in this audience today when it comes to, how they are seen, how they are judged, and what kind of portrayals, go along with them?
Forget about how they are judged. How do they judge themselves is what is important.
Fantastic.
I think when you look into the mirror, how do you feel? And if you don't feel good, that's okay. We are all human. We have good and bad days. But fake it till you make it. Tell yourself that I love and accept myself a little more every day, and it really works. Because, it is, we women have bodies, our bodies have formed such a large part of our identities, right? So, it is anything to do with the body. If it can bring honor and shame to a family, if you please, it can definitely, destroy our confidence when someone comments about it. You almost feel like if you put on weight, you feel like you're undesirable, you're unworthy. If you've shed weight, then you suddenly feel like maybe you deserve a little more in life, and it's ridiculous because your body is what is keeping you alive and it must be honored at all costs. You know, I learned this very important lesson a few years ago because I've had my struggles. You all have all known it. It's been very, you all have seen me through the years. But I realized that I was only sending hate towards my body. I was constantly saying, you're not what I want you to be. And therefore, I was constantly falling sick. Thankfully, there were little niggles, there were small issues, but constantly falling sick, Vani. And I started working with a healer 12 years ago, and I realized that, what are you doing? You know, the very thing that's keeping you alive, you are abusing the very thing that's keeping you alive. जिस थाली में खाते हो उसी में छेद करते हो. Exactly. So I started saying, okay, I'm thankful to my body for keeping me alive. I'm thankful to my breath, blah, blah, blah. And slowly, I started believing in it. Initially, I didn't. I started believing in it, and it's been a game changer. Because today, however I wake up, I feel good about myself. And when I don't feel good about myself, I tell them that it's okay. I tell them, no, I tell myself that it's okay. Tomorrow is a new day. You know, let me live with what I'm feeling today. Sometimes your body also expresses your emotions. Sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're angry, sometimes you're jealous, sometimes you're hateful, sometimes you're whatever, you know, hurt. Sometimes you're fearful. All of this expresses itself in various ways. But that doesn't make you a bigger... I had begun to feel small in my bigness. You know, and that is ridiculous. It was almost like I was cowering. But the one thing I have to say, Vani, and I thank God for this, when I face the camera, none of that matters. My size has never mattered to me when I face the camera. I love the camera so much. I trust the camera so much that I believe that it will always bring out the best in me.
Fantastic, and what a message to give on a very important day, you know. We constantly say that we celebrate women, but we have to first celebrate ourselves, so that the world will be there, you know, to, you know, look at us for what we are. Thank you so much, Vidya, for that message, and that is something which will go a long way, you know, in so many, the portrayals that you see, the way women look at themselves. I think that is so important, and thank you for that message.